at a super speedway, the high banks of Talladega. Seth Cole alongside of Jessica Shelton, who knows a thing or two about winning at this track. So, Jess, I mean, what is the strategy that all these guys, a big field of 30 cars, have to do to make it to the end and get that checkered flag?
The biggest thing is you gotta stay out of trouble. Preferably for me, I would have stayed in the back, but with these guys, it's gonna be complete pandemonium the whole race, trying to get up there to lead laps, get points, and try to win the race at the end.
We have pretty much the big storyline coming into this, a lot of teams formulating during the offseason. We got a big Toyota team with kind of a satellite Toyota team. And then at the other side, we've got a Ford team of Team Shallow Bay Racing. They've got a farm team as well. So it's really going to be a lot of the Fords and Toyotas. So where do the Chevys try and find their partners?
They're just gonna hook up with whoever is gonna go all the way up to the front, I believe. I believe when they figure out who the best person is to go and ride with behind that is stable enough, they get up to the front, then they'll ditch them, and then you get the point. It all ensues from there.
Pole position is going to be claimed by Tyler Mallon in the number 18, who we found out he was going to be driving for Top Gun Racing, but then we found out that he's actually a free agent now. So
I guess
yeah, we're basically figuring that, you know, he's still going to work with all those Toyota drivers, but that's a storyline at least we were given coming into this one.
All I've got to say is with him, Cole Baker, Tristan Allen, they work so well together on the other series that we've seen them perform in. I highly doubt that they're going to leave each other out in the race, and eventually somewhere along the way they'll find each other.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. I mean, you can see right here with our front row, you've got Tyler Mallon, Cody Lamas, and you can see some of the Fords lined up there in that second and third row on the top side, Shane Sides and Michael Norman. You got Toyotas lined up down there and Johnny Gardner. I mean, there's definitely going to be alliances here, but at the end of the day, I mean, when they come down to the final few laps at the point of no return, do you think they're still going to work with each other, or do you think all alliances are out the window?
Well, it's hard to say because if you win the first race, you're pretty much guaranteed an automatic playoff spot. So I believe that right there will come into play. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any friends toward the end of in the race period, unless you're at to the point where you're second or third and you've got another line coming and there's nothing you can do but just go with your teammate and your best buddy.
Going to be 50 laps of racing here today. That is the official scheduled distance. We do have, if necessary, extra laps for green-white checkers. So that's why it says 188 up there, but we are running technically to the completion of lap 50. And a driver maybe to watch in this one would be Dylan Schwallenberg, because last year, Talladega and Daytona, he swept them both.
I agree with the fact that Schallenberg is probably one of the best people to watch regarding a plate race. But my ideals are you got Tyler Mallon up there. Mallon's going to do what he does best, which is pretty much go up to the front and lead and try to hold the lead as long as possible. He's really aggressive. But someone else to keep an eye on, in my opinion, Seth, would be a certain driver who's making his return to the series back there in 28 starting spot, which would be Rick Johnson in the number 93.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. I think there's a couple of dark horses here as well, guys that usually are up there at the end at these super speedways. Yes, it is.
Sorry?
Yep, green flag in the air here. Yeah, you were right to cut me off, though. And I would look at like some other dark horses, like Cody Lamas usually is up there at the front at the end of these races. And maybe even further back if we look at someone like Emmanuel Hartnett, because they ran the lights race here last Thursday night. And Emmanuel Hartnett came out on top, so you got to wonder if that experience is going to come into play. And we thought this was going to happen. Yep. I heard this was going to be possibly going on. A lot of the Toyota drivers were talking about dropping to the back early, and that's what they're doing.
Well, Tyler Mallon dropped from the lead back to mid-pack to find his group.
Yes, he did. He's going to drop back there in front of Cole Baker. A couple of others that dropped back were Johnny Gardner and Tristan Allen. Kind of smart strategy if you think about it. A big pack of drivers. Last thing you want to do is have a wrecked race car in the first few laps.
True, and looks like Cody Lamas is going to take the first lap.
They are 4 wide behind them back there. That's Lyndon Wright on the bottom. I mean, little early to go 4 wide, do you think? Or do you think that's just drivers that are falling back as opposed to drivers that are moving up to the front?
Well, I honestly think they're falling back to get themselves set and strategize to figure out what they're going to do in the long term. I think this right here is a great idea because I'm part of this idea of going to the back, trying to save my stuff, wait to the end to actually do anything. But someone is really far off back there, completely out of the draft.
That is Johnny Gardner, I believe, in the 54, and he was one of the guys that we saw go down to the apron there in the first lap to drop to the back, but he has lost the draft, and he's going to need a caution, because no doubt about it, if this thing remains green with the way that they're lined up here at the front, they're going to reel him in pretty soon.
Admin Shane Sides takes the lead for lap 2, starting lap 3 here.
And with them completing lap 2, the restarts are the start of the race rather is official. No restart for the remainder of the race as far as regridding them. So any wreck that takes place now, it is a caution. All cautions are frozen field, and they're kind of lined up a little close there, all pushing each other. That's Shane Sides, Michael Norman, and Charles Belding all nose to tail down the backstretch.
Man, I'm looking at the middle pack here. You had Cole Baker, I believe, along with Tyler Mallon jumping to the high side. They're trying to make that second line form, but really it's not really going much of anywhere because everyone's on that bottom.
Well, you and I have run this version of the track, and if you get enough people up there, that outside line can actually be overpowering, especially on corner exit down the straightaways.
Yes, it can, but only if you get the right people who you trust to work with you. As Nathan Kiani is falling completely out of the draft right now. Looks like, I don't know, okay, off topic real quick. On my screen, it looks like he's got the roof glitch again.
Oh my goodness, the roof glitch strikes. I don't know what it is, but it shows up all the time on your end. But
I don't know.
Yanni here at the tail end of the group, along with Carter Friesen and Emmanuel Hartnett, our lights winner from last week.
And you got Kristen Allen back here too, and
yeah.
It looks like, it doesn't look like they're out of the draft too much here, as they're starting to form up that high side, but they got to get closer than that to actually make something work here.
Got a couple of teammates right there, I believe. The 36 of Natan Amiedo and the 44 of Felipe Teixeira. Looks like they were trying to see if there was anything on that top side, but for the most part, it's really just those Toyotas that have been testing the waters in that second lane.
And all this going on behind leader Shane Sides, who's just continuing to have complete clean racetrack in front of him.
And the thing we got to think about with the big groups of manufacturers and teams and satellite teams is, you know, if we go into this long green flag run, if we reach the fuel window, the ideal strategy, you'd think all the Fords are going to come down pit road together, all the Toyotas are going to come down pit road together, but they got to make sure that they all are on the same page of knowing where each other's going to be so they don't run each other over.
Yeah, if someone makes a slight little mistake coming on to take 4 tires versus someone who comes to take 2 tires because they weren't paying attention, it's just going to completely destroy any strategy they actually have.
Shane Sides continues to lead here. I mean, as of this point, I don't think they're really thinking, well, we got a challenge actually for the lead. Michael Norman and Charles Belding going to leave Shane Sides on the bottom. That's kind of interesting.
And look, that high side has started to form. And whoa, someone's in the wall back there.
That's Baker. Yeah, it was Baker in the 11th sideways. Somehow kept it straight. Nice save by the 11 car, and I think he'll still stay in the draft, but...
No, he's starting to fall pretty far back behind his teammate Emmanuel.
He's going to have Carter Friesen back there to help pick him up, but... Not sure.
Something I have to ask, because I was not informed if they were doing this or not. Are we doing stage point, or stage runs?
No, there are no stages.
Okay.
Nope, we're just running to the 50-lap mark, or further, depending on if they do have green-white checkers.
Run 3 wide here in the middle of the backstretch here. Some drivers falling back.
Yeah, that, I believe, is Pedro Lucas in the 40 moving back. He's actually carrying some FRN logos on his car. Appreciate him doing that. Michael Norman out in front here, though. You know, 1 week ago, they had the battle at Ram Ranch here at Talladega, kind of an exhibition, maybe kind of you could consider it a clash to start out the season, non-points. And Michael Norman won that race, so definitely be looking for him to try and keep himself at the front of the field. And I saw at the end of that race, too, he is not afraid to put on some really aggressive blocks when a win's on the line.
Well, when you finally get a win at a big track that you're really familiar with, like Talladega, then the next time you get Talladega, it really boosts your confidence, thinking you know exactly what you're doing. As long as he doesn't make any mistakes and get into any trouble, he should be pretty good and in a good spot at the end of the race.
What position did you say Rick Johnson started in? 28? Because he is up in the top 10 already.
But technically, I would say 27th or 26th based on, us not racing.
Right now, he is battling for the 6th position, so he worked his way up to the front pretty quickly, about to try and crack the top 5 in the first 9 laps of this race, but it's all Team SB up in the front there. You got Michael Norman, Belding's kind of the odd man out, but then behind them, you got Shane Sides, Will Goss, and the defending champion Dylan Poteet.
And way back here in the 26th and 25th position, back here you got Cole Baker, who has got some help, at least some, luck on the side of having the teammate in Carter Friesen, trying to push him and help him to be part of the draft and stick with him at least. So that's at least something good for him to actually have someone to rely on back there.
Yeah, I don't think they'll stay up in the draft, but at least they're going to turn faster lap times than if Baker was all by himself. We saw Charles Belding up there at the front have a little bit of warp issues. That's what caused him to step out of line, trying to get out of everybody's way. Now he's leading that outside line. Andrew Lemke there, and now Rick Johnson with help from Tristan Wilhoit. They're going to try and get that outside line going as well.
And Tyler Mallon, our pole sitter, that fell back at the start a little bit. He's worked his way back up. He's currently running 14th, and he was 10th last race. He's just on the high side right now, trying to make something work up there with everyone else.
Another reason why that outside line can work if you get enough people formed up as the run goes on and the tire heat builds up on that inside line, it wants to push up off the corners. You don't feel that on the outside line, which is why usually the outside line gets that good straightaway speed.
Yeah, and the only thing they got to worry about is making sure that they hit each other and bump each other just the correct way. If someone hits someone the wrong way, it's over, and either you're going to lose the draft or someone's going to turn someone else by accident, and it's going to be a really big melee.
And I don't know if it's just with this mod in particular, but it usually happens in any mod of super speedway that these drivers, we're seeing them, a lot of them just kind of shoving the other car in front of them. They got to be careful of chain bumping, and they got to be careful of bumper grab.
Yeah, if you hit the bumper the right way, it can help, but at the same time, with how this mod is on these tracks, with the grip and everything, how everyone wants to pull down or pull up based on, the setup itself, just one small mistake, that's all it takes.
Well, remember earlier when Michael Norman pulled to the outside on Shane Sides for the lead? Well, Shane saw the momentum that outside line had. He jumps up in front of Rick Johnson, trying to pass Norman for the lead, and Wilhoit got shuffled out of line there by Charles Belding. It's now 3 wide around the 7th position.
And Shane Sides goes right back to the lead at the moment anyway. And I'm looking at the outside pole sitter of Cody Lamas. He's fallen all the way back to 23rd. I don't know if this is just strategy or if he has an issue going on back there in front of Tristan Allen.
I saw him a few laps ago actually drop down below the WL line, the back straightaway, so I think he's dropping back on purpose and riding. And we mentioned Schwallenberg swept the super speedways last season. He's now there on that inside 3 wide with Mallon and Belding. That's a 3 wide battle for the 6th position.
The 2 devastating duos of any plate race that you go to. If you get Schwallenberg and Tyler up there, chances are all you're going to be hoping for is to finish the race in 3rd, or, if luck has it, you might actually get lucky, but at that point, you're just hoping for 3rd.
They were 3 wide for a brief moment there. Actually, I'm sorry, 4 wide. They've been 3 wide. They were 4 wide for a brief moment. Will Goss on the bottom is going to take the lead, and they are closing in on the lap machine of Johnny Gardner.
Oh, there's a car that spun off of a 4. Alright, no, it's off of 2, I'm sorry. It looks like it's Kiani, isn't it, or is that Alvarez?
Well, it would be Kiani who is sitting on pit road. Yes, I believe he is the one you are referring to. So, he's got some pretty extensive damage.
Really fast. He's about to go a lap down.
Oh my goodness,
and
he was
they're
gonna.
splitting him.
Yeah, he was gonna hold the bottom. Will Goss says, "Nope, I'm gonna put you in the middle." That's Schwallenberg going around the outside.
Tyler has nowhere to go. 4 wide at the line.
Boxed in behind the 54 was Mallon, and I think the biggest loser in all of that was Shane Sides. He was stuck on the top side 4 wide, and that's going to lose him quite a number of positions. And we're closing in. I mean, fuel window at CTS is somewhere around 14 to 16 laps. Maybe they can stretch it a little bit further if any of them are saving, but we're starting to close in on green flag pit stops for these guys.
Yeah, there's a little bit of controversy of a couple drivers not really too thrilled with each other in the chat from what I'm seeing regarding the number 36 and the 95 here.
Well, that would be Natan Amiedo, the 36 car. I wonder if maybe he and Kiani might have gotten together, which is why Kiani spun. Don't know.
Meanwhile, this battle up here, we've got the two of Will Goss taking the lead now, and Goss, I haven't seen much of him up front, but he's one of those people who are always a threat to win. He's really quiet the whole race, and all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere, and there he is.
Absolutely. Right now, leading the way, it's a couple of Fords, then a Toyota, and Dylan Pote, Michael Norman going to try and make the outside line work now. The defending champ wants to lead a lap at Dega.
I'm looking at it being lap 15 coming to 16. I mean, I wonder what the fuel window is here, because they're going to be kind of making green flag pit stops very shortly, and when they do, they got to make sure they've got all their ducks in a row when they come in.
Absolutely. You got to wonder if we're going to see some of these guys on that second groove maybe try and make their way down to the bottom, because you know, we mentioned that we think the Fords are all going to come together, the Toyotas are all going to come together, but they're all kind of intermingled right now. You don't really have a clear group of Fords and a clear group of Toyotas. They're all interspersed with one another.
And the one thing I've always hated about when we have to make green flag pit stops is when you're stuck up on that high line, you don't know if those people behind you or that inside line, if they're going to stay out or they're going to pit, and you got to make sure you get down to that bottom before you enter pit road. You come on in, otherwise you're going to wreck or have to run out of fuel.
Got a couple people back there with a little bit of connection problems. One of them was the 78 of Roger Ray, fourth on that outside line. As a couple of Shallow Bay drivers going to go at it for the lead. Poteet alongside of Will Goss.
Meanwhile, the car that's way in the back currently scored in 27th is David Alvarez, and he is currently exiting off of turn 2. Where are the leaders at?
Leaders are just now in the middle of 1 and 2. They are able to see him. They're about now maybe a quarter of the back straightaway behind him.
And they're going 3 wide back there.
Oh, no. Yes, they do. That is Pedro Lucas way up on the top side.
We gotta let that guy in. 4 wide.
And they're not going to really let him in. They are going to go 4 wide, and I think they're going to be okay.
And they make it through. That's at least something good. At least we don't have a caution from that.
Bit of a hairy situation there, but fortunately they got through it.
Here's something interesting to document here. While they're all racing up front, really heavy, Baker had gone behind Carter Friesen and sat there for the past several laps, and they're still hooked together. So that could be something good in the long run if they get a timely caution working in the way that they need it.
I mean, right now, they've at least been able to manage the gap between themselves and the race leaders, keeping themselves at least in the running of not being put a lap down. And we also got to focus here as well. There's the race within the race right now of drivers 1 lap down, because with David Alvarez being put -1, he and Johnny Gardner would right now be battling for the lucky dog position. And here's the pit stops.
And there's a wreck coming into the pit.
Lemke is around, Henry Nova as well. It is indeed. They have called a caution for that.
I'm guessing the people who are pitting are going to do a drive-through to get back on the track, or are they going to have to take service?
I'm not certain.
Schwallenberg is taking service.
Yeah, there's a couple of them pulling into their stalls, and they are taking service. So I guess since they were committed to pit road, they are allowed to take service. It'll be interesting to see if they get EOL'd. I think Tyler Mallon may have actually passed through pit road. I don't think he did pit.
Andrew Lemke, I believe, was the one that was turned there in the 7.
It was he and Henry Nova that both got together. We'll go back and see what happened with this. And we mentioned this about drivers having to communicate, saying, hey, I'm coming to pit road, and giving each other room too, because the way they were racing 3 wide, several rows deep, that means they're all going to be coming to pit road almost the same way.
And I'm currently looking back at this, and it looks like Lemke was going to stay out. And at the last second, he started slowing down on the track. And when he started slowing down, I don't know whether he gave Henry Nova the indication like, "Hey, I'm coming to pit road now." At the last second to try to pull down because he was still on the track. Apparently, Nova didn't catch the idea that he was coming in, or maybe at that last second it was just too much of a break, and Nova just hit him.
Definitely looks. Yeah, it definitely looks like Nova was not going to come to pit road. But if Lemke was pitting, to your point, that looked like an awfully late choice to come to pit lane. And I believe Michael Norman locked up the front brakes and he spun around as well trying to get onto pit road. I don't know if that was to avoid somebody or not.
That was a great job by these drivers not to get collected when they were spread out like that, slowing down, and the whole bit of date. Like you had, like I said, Nova coming across. You had Lemke going into the grass. It was great that they didn't panic and end up wrecking each other. It could have been a lot worse than that.
Definitely could have spelled the end of the day for a number of drivers. Want to see here what happened with Michael Norman. And okay, so I think what happened with the 21, he was gonna come to pit road. Then he changed his mind, and when he changed his mind, he overcorrected the car, and it got loose on him and spun around because all the rest of his Ford teammates stayed out. So I think he was trying to fake pit, and it just went wrong.
Currently going back to live. Pit stops are starting to finish up here. A couple of other people came right back down again. Tyler Mallon's falling back. Well, I'm guessing he hasn't black flag EOL, probably for pitting under a closed pit during the caution, maybe?
I don't think he pit, though. I thought he drove through, so maybe he's coming down to actually make a legitimate pit stop now.
Well, looks like the 10 is going to be the control car unless they're going to have another lap of caution.
Yes, he will. Dejan Weeks, first time he's been at the front of the field. It's going to be a Mustang front row with Lemke lined up there in second. So after getting spun out, actually, hold on, something. I don't know why the 10 and the 7 are dropping, unless they received maybe black flags on pit road.
The update is 95 is out, and the 54 is one lap down currently.
So my assumption is that probably David Alvarez was the recipient of the lucky dog. So with Gardner one lap down, he'd be the only one -1. So if he gets another quick caution, he'd be back on the lead lap. So I'm assuming that the 10 of Dejan Weeks and the 7 of Andrew Lemke probably got black flags. That's why the 2 of them dropped. So that actually puts Tristan Wilhoit the race leader.
Good to see Wilhoit. He's been AFK away from a lot of these leagues, and he rarely shows up, and it's good to see him show up and grab the lead and actually be up front.
And if you've been away for a while, probably to get yourself refamiliarized, no better place to do it than at Super Speedway.
Coming into pit this time by, apparently we're going to have another lap of caution.
Yes, we are. My assumption is probably it's going to be 1 to green this next time by, and so all these guys, they're pitting on coming to the conclusion of lap 20.
19.
Yeah.
I know, you're right, 20. I was looking at one car that was a lap down, sorry.
So I don't see with the fuel window, we've basically speculated that they can make it the rest of the way on this pit stop, but I mean, why would they come to pit road on this lap, do you think?
Well, based on what Emmanuel just did, because I was watching him come in pit road, took fuel only and went back out, so it looks like they're just topping off. A couple of these drivers are just coming in to get tires, fresh rubber, in case it's needed, because they've been up front, they're pushing their way up front, and there's collision on pit road between Blake Warren and the 77 of Carter Friesen, and I think Dylan Schwallenberg got a part.
Yes, he did. Too. Yep, that was the 24 there in the grass.
Coming out of your pit stall, you always got to be careful of people coming up at you to try to pass to get out of pit road. That's one of the reasons why pit road can be such an issue half the time when you're trying to leave and come in.
Like Schwallenberg didn't really get any damage, so he should be okay.
He probably would have gotten a black, but in my opinion, that should be easily cleared.
So we have gotten the 1 to green signal. We will be going this time. Shane Sides now will be inheriting the lead, and he has chosen the inside line.
Rick Johnson on the outside, and like you said, Shane Sides control car here.
highest that Lyndon Wright has run so far in this race. Unfortunately, on the screen it's a generic, but we had some drivers hop into in-game cars just before we came live, and so I got in-game cars, had to download them, but unfortunately, I guess it's not the same 32 that Lyndon's driving, so he's going to be the only generic you see on your screen.
Henry Nova's trying to catch up back here. He's spun on the apron coming off pit road.
Everybody trying to...
Should be okay. I think he might make it.
Yeah, he should. I think he'll catch up. Everybody trying to get in their correct line. So right now, it would be Shane Sides, Rick Johnson, Lyndon Wright, Natan Amiedo, and Corey Williams. That is your top 5. Jonatos Berto right now in 6th. I believe that's Pedro Lucas in 7th. 8th place would be Eric Rodriguez, the Charles Belding, and Tristan Wilhoit. That's the top 10 as we go back green.
In a few moments when the green flag is racing.
We got our first caution. They were racing 3 and 4 wide. Do things calm down a little bit now, or do we go back to the same?
Absolutely. They're gonna try to calm themselves a little bit, but the people who, like, you got Tyler Mallon in the back. Tyler's gonna go up to the front. Tyler's not gonna sit back here too long. He wants to get up there and start leading again. But you got other people who want to relax and stay in rhythm that are gonna stay in the back. They're not really looking forward to it. So it's pretty much a hit and miss of, are they going to calm down or are they going to be more aggressive now?
All right there, Shane Sides was the control car. And when he went, Rick Johnson immediately dropping to the back there up on the outside line.
Belding's dropping back now.
Belding in the 28 dropping as well, as you mentioned. And we almost had a driver or a duo jump to the top side. Looked like Corey Williams and Natan Amiedo were going to work together, but then the 36 left the 8 out to dry.
Well, didn't take them that long to get all racy because here comes that high side. Poteet, and I mean, is that Poteet or is that Corey? Oh, that's Corey Williams.
That's Corey. And now he's going to get dropped back as Will Hoyt's leading that outside line with Emmanuel Hardin and Roger Ray. And I thought you said they were going to calm down. They're 3 wide mid-pack again.
Hey, I said some of them would calm down. I said it was a half-half.
Shane Sides continuing to show the way here, and he's spent a good portion of this race out in front. So, interesting to see. Most of the time, usually you see Shane as the pusher rather than the guy leading the draft. So interesting to see him showing the way. But now he's got a challenge on the outside. That's Lyndon with help from Pedro Lucas.
And as they're going to come off of this corner here, that high side is going to get a run, and that high side's coming. It does. I don't know who is that. Yeah, that is what is that Lyndon?
Yeah, it's Lyndon. Yeah. Lyndon Wright in the 32.
It's still generic on my end. I'm sorry.
It's still a generic on my end as well. So
the only other generic's Will Hoyt. So I was trying to figure out which one it was.
Got Eric Rodriguez down there on the bottom in that Aldi's Ford Mustang, highest he's run today, up in the 3rd position currently. And
when I started out my online racing career, one of the people who would always be dominant at these plate tracks and just is Eric Rodriguez. So he might be someone, if he stays up near the front for a while, he might be someone we really need to consider as a dark horse winner. And Rick Johnson has backed off.
Yeah, he has dropped, actually, I believe, outside of the draft. So
he's going into turn 3 now. Or he's about to. I'm sorry, now he's in turn 3, after the backstretch.
There might have been a bigger issue on that restart than I initially thought. I thought he was just purposely dropping to the back to ride, but something, obviously, that we don't know about is very much amiss on that Toyota.
I want to point out something. We didn't make any indication about this, but look at that 11 of Cole Baker, who hit the wall, went way to the back, saved his car, worked with Carter, and look where he's at now. Mid-pack, caught up, working his way up to the front on the high side, in front of Tyler Mallon, his teammate.
Probably had a big smile on his face when that caution came out. And he's trying to push his teammate Tristan Allen there on the extreme outside line now. Just been notified the 78 of Roger Ray has been asked to drop back as he has been blinking quite a bit here. And and he's going to get wrecked.
A little bit, and Roger's going across the track, and we're probably going to have another caution because it's a multi-car.
Blake Warren collected up in that one. Cody Lamas may have gotten a piece as well.
And
78 was trying to drop, and they put him 4 wide.
This will say Rick Johnson, and if I'm not mistaken, Johnny Gardner will probably be the lucky dog.
Yes, he would. That would put all remaining cars back on the lead lap.
The 59 is currently 5 laps down, by the way.
Yeah, I believe he,
Did he fall out?
well, I don't know.
Let me check. Yeah, Alvarez fell out. Yeah.
I guess he hasn't come back into the server. That's a couple of teammates out of the, I believe it's the satellite team of Top Gun Racing, the 59 and the 80 and the 95. I don't remember what their team name is.
Well, it's not Pigeon Racing, I can tell you that.
Definitely is not Pigeon Racing. No, that is for sure.
I had to.
But as we're under caution, we're going to go back real quickly and take a look at what brought the yellow out. And I don't really know if you can fault anybody particularly on this, because we already know that 78 of Roger Ray was being asked to drop to the back, so he was up as high as he could go. They were 3 wide behind him, and with a warping car, I don't think Tristan Allen knew where the 78 was going to reappear.
And with them trying to run the way they were, if you look where Tristan was, they were 3 wide already back there between Corey. I don't know who that other person is because it's in the way. I think that's Linden in the middle, and Baker was right behind pushing Tristan, and Roger was already as close to the wall as he could get to get back there. He had nowhere to go.
Absolutely. We'll take a look here at what happened, and you can clearly see that there was actually some space. I'm not so certain that maybe when Roger was trying to give room, he may have gotten up into the wall a little bit, and maybe getting up into the wall, turned left to try and get off the wall.
He warps out, and then when he warps back in, he's already on the high side of the front bumper of Tristan, and they're going 4 wide at that point. And then behind him, you've got Baker, Mallon, and Carter making it 3 wide. So it was a very, tight little area at that point, and they couldn't help that, I wouldn't believe, in my opinion.
You saw right there, I don't think Cody Lamas really spun Blake Warren around. I think when Roger Ray was blinking, he appeared back in the 43.
Came down and warped out and warped back in and hit Blake.
Yep. I don't think there's much damage on that 43, though. I think he'll be all right.
And I don't think Cody got much damage either. I think he's okay. I think he got maybe a little bit of front end, but I think Cody's going to be fine. But anyway, let's see what they're doing for pit stops here.
Yeah, pit stop's going to take place on lap 27, coming to lap 28. Still, at this point, does not quite put them into the fuel window to make it the rest of the way. So they will at least have to pit one more time. The lap that they're basically shooting for to have maybe a caution come out would be somewhere, I would assume, around lap 34, 35, somewhere in that range.
Quite possible. It depends on if they try to save a little bit, because you can save at least a lap or 2 with this mod.
Contact right there between Shane Sides and Natan Amiedo coming off pit road, as that was a battle for second. Dejan Weeks again wins the battle off pit lane, and this time I think he might be able to keep the lead. Before, when he had the lead, he dropped back, so we'll see if he keeps it.
I'm just going to point out one quick tidbit here. Once again, the person with the biggest smile on their face has to now be Rick Johnson. He's able to catch back up.
Be interesting to see if he's going to be okay on this restart, because I don't know if maybe he blew a gear and that's why he dropped so quickly, or what. So we have gotten the 1 green signal. Dejan Weeks chooses the inside. Shane Sides will be on the outside, and it's all Fords in the top 5. Natan Amiedo, Dylan Poteet, and Michael Norman. As a matter of fact, it's all Fords in the top 6 if you add in the 7 of Andrew Lemke.
Now, if you're going to ask me at this point, like you did earlier, are they going to calm down? I'm going to sit here and tell you straight up, I do not think they're going to relax and run a single file for a while. I honestly think we're going to see what we saw earlier. They're going to try to make that high side go, and they're going to go up to the front, and they're going to try to end up getting that race lead and see what they can do. I don't think they're going to be very, very quote-unquote cautious and race carefully at this point.
Interesting too, we're about to make it 60% of the way through the scheduled number of laps, and we really haven't seen the big one yet. We've had really just some small wrecks that have brought out caution, so we know the big one is probably looming just around the corner.
I'm gonna say that the big one will probably come out toward the end if there's a big one, but you have to realize all these drivers here have got tons of experience. They know how to race. They've done this for a really long time, so they've got some common sense.
The field's in the hands of Dejan Weeks. We'll see where he chooses his acceleration point in the restart zone. And there he goes. He's actually going to get away from Natana Maeda, which may not be such a good thing because Shane Sides, Dylan Poteet, they're closed up to each other on that outside line.
Yeah, and that they're all like jostling for position now. Everyone wants to go to that inside line because that's where you want to be at the start of a restart itself. You want to be on that bottom, maybe a lap into the run to 2 laps, then work your way up to the high side. But that high side, it's already proven that they're coming now. That they're not going to sit and wait for the tires to warm up and get going. They're going.
They are pushing down the back straightaway, nose to tail, the 22, 17, and 7. But that outside line, at least for the moment, has not gotten the advantage. Dejan Weeks still holding the bottom, still out in front. Probably here on the front straightaway is where that outside line is going to get their run.
We haven't even really talked much about that 17 car right there of Dylan Poteet coming up either.
Yeah, Poteet right now trying to lock himself up into the playoffs, as you alluded to earlier, with a win early on in the season so that way he can try and defend his championship.
They're going 3 wide back there.
Interesting too, I was actually looking back through the statistics here for IMRC, and we've only got 2 former champions in the field. That being Dylan Poteet, who won the championship last season, and then the season before in season 6, Dylan Schwallenberg. So right now, the odds are in pretty good favor of possibly a different champion this season.
And what I'm looking at now is the scoring wheel. It looks like they're still showing Johnny Gardner 1 lap down in 27th.
I believe he's running at the tail end of this field, so maybe if another caution comes out.
For second, third. Now they're going to they're going to go 4 wide.
Oh, gracious.
Careful, Emmanuel.
Oh, Will Hoyt almost crowded Emmanuel Hartnett up into the wall there.
Lucky they were able to save it. They know, like I said, it's a good thing they know what they're doing pretty much. So they're really careful. They're trying to be aggressive, but at the same time, they're trying to move up there as that high side is now going to get the advantage here. And it looks to me like Shane's... Well, it looks like that bottom and that high side is pretty much equal now.
Right now they are, yeah. I was looking earlier on like that outside line was overpowering the inside line. All of a sudden it looks like, I don't know if it's that the outside line doesn't really have as many cars lined up, but right now the inside line is holding court with the outside line.
Rick Johnson back there, it looks like he's okay, I believe somewhat. He's getting a huge shove.
Still up in the draft. He's now actually going to jump up to the outside there. I don't know if he's trying to drop back again or not.
He actually might, like you said earlier, there might be a problem.
Oh, we got a spinner in the back. That's Roger Ray by himself. I think that was a solo. I'm not hearing any caution being called, so I believe we are still green. Oh, and now I'm hearing there is a caution.
Yeah, I'm looking at the incident real quick. What it was the 54 of Johnny Gardner was blinking a little bit, and Roger as well, and that's where the it was a net code, in my opinion, net code warp.
So 2 warping cars wrecking into each other. Well, I didn't think it's possible that 2 warping cars could find each other, but apparently that is the case.
Come back to me after you had a long discussion with DJ Curtis.
So that brings out the 3rd caution of the day.
Car. It's Belding. Belding's going to the back here. He's underneath the line, falling back a little bit.
Saw just before that caution came out as well. It looked like...
oh, there's a spinner back here. It was between Belding and... I think Belding was trying to get a spot, and I believe it's the 51? No, it might have been... Yeah, no, it was the 91 of Berto. He spun out. It should be okay now.
That's what brought out the caution. And again, we haven't really seen the big one. It's still looming. We know it's still going to happen.
Well, the question is, look at the lap counter. Look what we're coming to, and look how many laps we got left.
Oh, wow.
Gonna cut it close, and this is gonna be exciting and figure out who can make it now.
If they pit now, they should be right on the cusp of the window to being able to make it. I think about 16 laps is the max. If you keep your foot in the throttle, I think it's the max you can go with the CTS physics. So they would be right on the cusp.
I do not agree because remember, we had our first quote-unquote pit stop coming to lap 18. So I think they can make it a little bit past 16.
So with that being said, if they pit now, you're saying that they're good to go on fuel. So that would mean
I
that
think they were pitting on lap 16 coming to 17, were they not?
I think you might be
and
right.
Some of them were staying out, which meant, in my opinion, they can make it to the no.
Could have gone further. Yep, good point. So if that's the case, then basically this is gonna be the final pit stop, barring green-white checkers.
And they have put Johnny Gardner back on the lead lap.
So Gardner, who I guess I'm assuming probably, well, I don't know.
They probably forgot to put him on earlier, most likely.
Oh, okay, that would make sense because I'm not sure who claimed the wreck. If the 54 claimed the wreck, I'm not sure if they would have put him on the lead lap there. But to your point, I think
they probably forgot. That's what I'm thinking.
Yep, you're probably right. I think Dejan Weeks got the lead on the last pit stops by going fuel only. Be interesting to see if anybody tries that now.
Emmanuel's out. I think Emmanuel only took fuel only, I believe.
Trying to see where he's at.
Nah, he came out behind a few other people.
Oh yeah, there he is.
He only took fuel only now, from what I thought I saw.
I think a number of drivers did, because Shane Sides is going to be way back there. Dylan Poteet actually comes out with the lead.
A few drivers are taking 4 tires all the way around.
Now, what do you think? Is there any advantage with taking the 4 tires here, or would you have gone with the fuel-only strategy as well?
Well, it's under caution, and if you're going to fill up your tank, if you fill it up with 2 cans, it's going to pretty much be the same length as a 4-tire pit stop. So I would have just taken 4 tires for the heck of it.
Only thing I would wonder is, would you want to, give up that track position potentially to those going fuel only, knowing that there's a possibility the big one could still strike?
True, I see where you're coming at with the whole idea of being involved in traffic and everything, but at the same time, you got to remember, you got about 16 laps left. You've got plenty of time. Anything can happen, and with what we've seen so far on these restarts, they want to go to the front, and they're not willing to settle back and relax.
Well, speaking of going to the front, take a look at who we've got there on the outside line, first 2 rows. Tyler Mallon and Cole Baker have found each other again, but this time they're going to be lined up nose to tail on this restart. And I was wondering how long it was going to take for Mallon to get back up to the front. We got the answer.
Well, and we also got to look at what we said earlier. They were supposed to, quote-unquote, wink-wink, be not working together, but like we deduced earlier, look at the teammates running right behind each other.
Absolutely. They've got Emmanuel Hartnett, another teammate, just behind Michael Norman, 4th on that outside line. So we'll see if the Toyotas can get lined up. Poteet's in control of the restart. He's got the satellite teammate of Andrew Lemke behind him. Green is out, and
Emmanuel Hartnett did not get going on that start.
Neither did Lemke. And Poteet's going to start blocking. He realizes those Toyotas were lined up. He had to go up there and block that.
Poteet's going to try to hold the lead. I don't think Mallon is going to be quite confident in holding second. I think Mallon wants to go to the front now.
Only problem is his closest teammate right now would be Cole Baker on that outside line. He's surrounded by Fords, so if he makes a move, would any of the Fords go with him?
Are they actually having a Ford manufacturer's title? Are they not Ford? Are they having a manufacturer's title in this?
I'm not sure. I doubt it. There's so many Toyotas, so many Fords. I doubt that they're having a manufacturer's title, but maybe.
And Chevy could just say, I'm half and half, right?
I mean, there's only, I think, 4 Chevrolets in the field, so they're just basically getting a participation award.
And Poteet's going to lead this lap on the restart, coming back.
Like right now, I think what Mallon's hoping is that that outside line can get some momentum. Cole Baker's leading that line. He's got Michael Norman and a Ford behind him.
Garner's dropped off the pack and Roger's back here, and Roger's trying his best to make sure he doesn't have another issue, and he's still warping a little bit, but he's keeping it going pretty decent back here.
Just riding at the tail end for the moment. Maybe, I guess, just kind of waiting out till the end to make a charge up there. For the moment, looks like his connection's settled. Yeah, they are. And right in the middle of that as well was Dylan Schwallenberg, the defending winner of this race in the 24, who had that issue on pit road a couple of laps ago, a couple of pit stops ago, trying to march his way back to the front.
Managed to work his way up a little bit more. Again, Rick Johnson.
93, looks like he's going to try and help Cole Baker. Manuel Hartnett was up there, and he ditched the outside line.
The high side, Belding is up next to the high side. I don't know if he's going to stay up there very long or if he's just going to start back down.
We mentioned about Manuel Hartnett winning the lights race last week. Well, Belding finished second in that race, so keep an eye on him to maybe be up there at the front. He probably doesn't want to remember the Clash race, though, the battle at Ram Ranch, because he went airborne over in turn 1, so probably trying to forget about that Talladega experience.
Just to point out about teammates here, Carter Friesen found his teammate Tristan Allen.
Toyota's there towards the back, starting to get themselves formulated up. Right now, Baker trying to get that outside line going, but they're not really lined up there, and you've got a Toyota, Ford, and Chevy leading that outside line, so there's no manufacturer alliances on the second lane.
Is all over the back end of leader Poteet right now. Trying to make a move is what Malin's trying to do. He can't find nothing, so he starts back in line. He's going to settle right now quite comfortably behind him, but I can tell you, Malin wants to go to that lead. He really wants it.
The only problem is he's got to have that second line get up there so he'll have some drafting partners, because I think if he makes a move on Poteet, there's no way the 7, 22, 2, they're all teammates. I don't think they're going to go with him. Well, as soon as I say that...
I think that's Shane, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Shane and Lemke both jump up to the top side there.
Nope. Poteet will.
He's going to go up there and leave the lone Toyota on the bottom. Malin's now got Will Goss for drafting help, and he's actually going to get alongside of Poteet for the lead.
They're all 4 wide back there with Carter.
They were. Oh, man, that was Friesen, Will Hoyt, Williams, and I believe that was Schwallenberg all the way on the top side. How did they make that work?
Wow, they're just really racy right now. Now Malin's in the sucker hole. He's dropping back, unfortunately. He needs to find an area. Michael Norman hit the apron there, and there they go.
Spinner. Natana Miedo around. Will Hoyt. I'm sorry, not Will Hoyt. Allen's involved, and we got a flipper. It's Will Hoyt in the 38.
Race back will be won currently by Dylan Poteet over Will Goss at the line.
Wow, well, I mean, this maybe could qualify as the big one, but we still got 10 laps remaining, so that's our closest contender for the big one. Carter Friesen was caught up in that.
Tristan Allen was, unfortunately.
And be interesting to see how up to speed Tristan Wilhoit's going to be, because that 38 car took at least one barrel roll.
And Tyler Malin was the biggest loser of the whole issue when he got sucker holed and went back. And I think that pretty much, seeing how they all were racing, it pretty much bottled up that whole back end to where they had nowhere to go. They're wanting to make moves. People are too worried about where they're going to go. They want to drop back and get out of the way. And at the last second, the hole closes. You can't do nothing about it.
You know what was really interesting? In the same corner, Michael Norman seemed to get loose and went down on the double yellow line, and then just after that, the same happened for the 36. So that was kind of interesting that 2 drivers had the same type of issue, almost in the exact same spot.
I want to go back and look at it now.
We're going to look. You can see right there, Norman may have gotten a little bumper grab off of Hartnett.
I'm trying to find the time.
I'm wondering if maybe it stacked him up, because then Tristan Allen was into the back of Natana Miedo.
And I just want to point out, look at Cody Lamas running in the back there. It all happened right up in front of the 48 car, and he was able to get down on the apron and get through it without making any contact, any wreck. He's trying to save what he has for the end, I believe.
Did a great job getting it down to the apron. Carter Friesen, we mentioned, was involved. Jonatas Berto was in it. Eric Rodriguez nosed it pretty good in the outside wall. And I want to go back to the flip by Will Hoyt because it almost looked like he grip flipped. I don't think anybody hit him. I think he was on the brakes, and when the car went sideways, it just flipped over on him.
I'm trying to get the little white. Sorry.
Let's see right here. Corey Williams snaps loose, flips the 38. And I think he started to grip flip, and then the second bit of contact from Corey Williams sends him over.
Yeah, he had to be on the brakes because at that point, right before Corey touches him, the back end of Will Hoyt hits the back of the wall area, and he's at a max of 83 miles an hour at that point, so he was hard on the brakes. That's what caused the grip flip.
Well, I would say that more than likely, if he's got roof damage, it's not going to be a glitch on your end because most of the time after a barrel roll, they end up having at least a little bit of roof damage. Question is, how up to speed is he going to be? And I would also question how up to speed Eric Rodriguez is going to be after he went nose first into that outside wall off of turn 4.
And I want to give another shout out here to someone who missed this wreck besides Cody Lamas. The 78 of Roger Ray, he missed this. He missed the flipping car Will Hoyt, moves, darts in and out and around a whole bunch of drivers along with Henry Nova, and they get through it perfectly fine.
And that's usually one of the most difficult types of wrecks to miss is when it takes place in the corner, because there's not a whole heck of a lot of places to go except the apron.
I completely agree. And back up the front, by the way, it is still Poteet and Goss. Lemke is third currently, and the 21 of Michael Norman is fourth.
And we should point out as well, we mentioned about Michael Norman winning the Battle of Ram Ranch last week. Well, he probably wouldn't have won that race if Will Goss had not gotten called for changing lanes before the start-finish line, because he was the leader on that final restart. So obviously he's got some redemption on his mind as he'll be restarting to the outside of his Shallow Bay teammate, Dylan Poteet.
I think Michael Norman may have either pit or he EOL'd or something because he's not up here with the top 3 because Shane Sides is now 4th and Cole Baker 5th. Michael Norman is now dropped to 6th.
Yep, there he is. Yeah, he's going to be 3rd on that outside line. Now, we actually have a couple of cars that are still on pit road, too. Carter Friesen getting repairs done. Felipe Teixeira was on pit road in the 44. I think he might actually be a lap down. No, he is still on the tail end of the lead lap. We haven't really mentioned him today at all. And by the way, Johnny Gardner has taken his 54 to the garage area, so he will join Nathan Kiani as the only 2 drivers so far that have DNF'd this race.
I don't think Alvarez came back. I think
he's we could technically call him a DNF as well. He's not officially retired out of the race, but I think we can add him as well to that list of retirees.
Bring up what I'm looking at here. This number 24 Valvoline car of Dylan Schwallenberg is right here in 11th, right here, close proximity of striking to get to the lead again.
And when we go green, it will be a total of 8 laps to go. Question is, will we see a caution in between now and then? My assumption is yes, but we'll have to wait and see. So you got Fords on the top, Fords on the bottom. Highest running Toyota rather right now is Cole Baker in 5th. Highest running Chevy, you alluded to him, Dylan Schwallenberg. Actually, no, he's 11th. Actually, Belding's the highest running in 10th. But question is, can they break up these Fords? Because you got 5 of them up inside of the top 6.
You asked me so many times earlier after these restarts, do you think they're going to calm down? You think they're going to be relaxed? Well, I think you know the answer by now.
I only asked you near the beginning and midway point. I'm not even going to bother to ask near the end of this race because we both know the answer to that.
We raced with these guys so much before. We know what's coming. We know where this is going.
The Poteet's
completely aggressive.
Absolutely. Poteet, the control car, gets a nice bump there from Lemke.
Oh boy. Jam-packed on that high side. Poteet's going to get away, and like you alluded to earlier on, that is not something you want to do, is get away early.
Well, do you think this might have been strategy? Maybe Poteet Lemke get clear and then move up to the outside to pull that Ford train around, perhaps?
There's a warper here. I think it's Belly.
Yes, it was the 28. Just a little bit of warp. Here come the Toyotas. Baker and Hartnett going to work that outside line.
Poteet, you can't have both. You gotta have one.
He's going to choose the bottom, leaves the top open for the couple of Camrys out of Top Gun Racing.
There's too much of a gap right between Emmanuel and Goss. They're going to fall back a little bit, but when Goss gets up to him, watch that high side coming, because Malin just sucked right up to the back end of, I believe, Belding.
Poteet and Lemke nose to tail. You got Michael Norman third on the inside line, and then there is Schwallenberg looking to go 2 in a row here at Dega in back-to-back seasons, right there in the thick of it.
And a dark horse, as you mentioned earlier, is that 10 Dejan. He's just sitting there ready to go somewhere.
I kind of feel like he's going to pull off a Joey Murphy. Joey Murphy would run only the super speedways in the 10 car.
Malin making it 3 wide underneath Belding. He's going to force Belding up out of the way, and Malin will take the spot as Belding has to drop back now.
He's now hooked up with Richard Johnson. He's also got Tristan Allen right there with him as well. So maybe if Rick can make some moves and Tyler goes with him, those Toyotas can hook up with the 11 and 19 who are up there at the front.
Well, they better figure out what they're going to do, because this time we've got another lap ticked away and moving closer to that checkered.
6 laps to go at the line. Poteet continuing to show the way. Lemke, for the moment, seems content to push him. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case when we get closer to the end of this race. Something tells me no. Michael Norman right now in that 3rd position, and then you've got the highest running Chevy of Schwallenberg still just kind of looming there, waiting to see what happens.
I'm really looking at this high side here of Cole Baker and Emmanuel. They are hooked up completely bumper to bumper. They're going. It doesn't even look like they're trying to let off to give any room between each other. Emmanuel's pushing as hard as he can to Cole Baker to get something out of that 11.
Roger Ray's warp issues have returned, and he's right in the middle of the pack, so we'll have to wait and see if he is requested to drop back, or if not, that might be where we might need to look at for maybe another caution coming out. That outside line, though, has lost the momentum. The top 3 going to get clear. That's Poteet, Lemke, and Norman, all in Ford Mustangs.
And they're 3 wide back there with Nova, and I'm not sure if that's Blake in the middle.
Yes, it is. That's Blake in the STP Chevrolet, and that's Corey Williams on the bottom in the 8 car.
It's amazing. Some of these cars damaged and wrecked, and they're back up here.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't seen a lot of heavy contact. The 2 drivers I was worried about were Will Hoyt and Rodriguez. They're both up still here as well, and Baker!
There's your big one right there.
There it is, and we've got another flipper. Someone went airborne. Oh my goodness, we got warp wrecking as well.
Poteet will win the race back to the line, but this race is far from over because we have enough laps to have it go either green, white, checkered, or overtime.
Corey Williams, Cody Lamas, Roger Ray, Shane Sides. A lot of them were involved. The whole infield grass and pit road entry was all littered with cars. Belding was in it. Lyndon Wright was in it. It'd probably be easier to name the drivers that weren't involved rather than those that were.
And I want to draw your attention for a brief second. Poteet, Lemke, Norman. 4th now, Dylan Schwallenberg.
Tough part there for Schwallenberg, though, is he's one of, I think, 4 Chevrolets in the field, and maybe the one guy I was looking at that would be a Chevy bow tie for him to work with now has quite extensive damage, and that's Cody Lamas, who was caught up in that. So if Schwallenberg does make his way to the front, who pushes him there?
And the only really good buddy he's got right now, from what I can see, you have Dejan underneath him starting 5th, but I don't think Dejan will be willing to let Schwallenberg in too easily. And then you've got the bit of damage of Emmanuel Hartnett and on back right now.
Like a bump gone wrong between teammates there. You mentioned that Hartnett and Baker, they were nose to tail shoving, trying to make that outside line work, and I think there might have just been a little bit of bumper grab between those 2.
And you said earlier about Roger Ray warping that they might call him out of that to drop back, but what I was going to mention at that point in time is when it's this close to the end, all bets are off. Let's go. We can't keep holding back. We gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. And unfortunately, that's the same process that Baker and Emmanuel were involved in, and they wanted to go. It was time to go. That's the only thing they could do, and it just didn't work out too well on them. Like we said earlier, that bumping, one slight little error, one slight little mistake, you can't help it.
We're gonna Tan Amiedo work his way through that as Shane Sides, Corey Williams, Roger Ray, Lyndon Wright, Henry Nova, Tristan Wilhoit, Will Goss, Charles Belding, Cole Baker, Tristan Allen, they all got involved in this one. Blake Warren there as well.
Cody Lamas got pretty much damaged, and he's returning to the race after a really lengthy stay on pit road.
He when he spun, he then spun into Baker and then got sent back into Williams, and it looked like there was like a warp there that gave him and the 8 car pretty good damage. Be interesting to see if they're up to speed or not. And something I noticed here, I don't know if you saw it, and it might be the setup, but it looked like a lot of drivers when that wreck happened went to get on the brakes and the cars just snapped around on them.
It could be a grip issue for all I know. I didn't get a chance to go out there on this track to play around and test, so I don't know what this setup is capable of. I think I've only ran this track only a couple of times compared to you. You've ran this track a lot more than I have.
I don't recall ever having that issue happen, but there may have been a little bit of an edit to the grip levels perhaps, or maybe something in the brake bias perhaps in the setup. We have gotten the 1 to green signal. This is going to be a 2-lap shootout. This is not a overtime green-white checkered. This is an inbounds green-white checkered.
I'm looking back here at Emmanuel Hart, and it just such a big heartbreak for him because you really don't get a chance to see him run as well as he was running at that point, and it was really good to see him up near the front. Just so unfortunate to see him and Cole Baker, who had such travesty earlier on, dropping all the way back, getting that lucky brake caution, only to have this happen to him.
Absolutely. I mean, the race isn't over yet. They can still maybe salvage a good finish depending on what happens here if we get to the point of no return and all that.
The question I have now is Poteet going to get a jump like he did last time, or is Lemke going to be ready for him?
Yeah, I mean, he's got Norman behind him, does Poteet, so maybe Norman will be content to push the 17. Poteet accelerates.
Lemke falls back.
He almost timed it right, but not quite, and Norman is going to push Poteet to the lead. He's also going to barely squeeze in front of Dejan Weeks, and Schwallenberg, as you mentioned, no friends on the top side. He's dropping back to his Chevy and Pedro Lucas, but I don't think that they're going to be able to make up much ground as they're the only 2 on that outside line up in the top 5.
Dylan should have got in right behind Dejan, but it was too soon. Rick Johnson back up to 5th now as Poteet leads. It's going to be interesting to see if the friends become enemies here at the end of this race between Michael Norman and Dylan Poteet.
What do they say? Final lap, there are no teammates. Everybody's in it for themselves. Looks like they will make it back to the white flag. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe they'll wreck you in the tri-oval. If they make it back to the white, they are racing back to the checkers no matter what. Poteet brings it down. He's going to hit the line. And
white flag.
Here we go. We are going to the checkers. Let's see what happens.
Rick Johnson trying to make that high side work in 1. Dejan looks like he wants to peek up there, but he's not doing it yet. And what about that car right behind Dejan that was involved in so many issues earlier? Look at that. Malin off the corner, and then there's Pedro and Shane.
They save it. Oh, look at Norman looking high. He's got Lemke with him. Those 2 work together back at the Battle of Ranch Ram. Or Ram Ranch. I can't say. I'm dyslexic, apparently.
It was a track.
It was. Side by side for the lead here, coming through 4. Norman trying to get the outside line going. Oh, there goes Rick Johnson.
Into the car of Henry Nova and at the line, Seth.
Oh, it's going to be close. Norman's trying to side draft. Can he get the run? Norman Poteet. It's Poteet by maybe mere inches.
Official scoring shows 0.02 on that leaderboard.
2 100ths. Wow.
I feel so bad for Henry Nova.
I do too.
He had come back up after so many wrecks, being involved in so much issues, and then he just got hit on the side. There's nothing he could have done.
Innocent bystander there. A couple of other guys that were innocent bystanders. Shane Sides with that incident on the back straightaway, losing ground.
And how about that 32 finishing sixth?
Lyndon Wright, one of the last to get into the server, didn't get very much practice and brings it home with a 6th place finish.
Roger Ray, with all the issues he's had with the warping being in the back, he comes home with the top 10 finish in 7th. Corey Williams, South Corey freaking Williams, top 10.
And there you go.
Baker came back to finish 9th, so that was pretty decent for him.
Take a look here at a kind of freeze frame of this battle for the win coming to the line. I mean, I think if Lemke had been a little bit closer to Michael Norman, it might have been even closer. But the fact that the 21 and the 7 really weren't quite lined up, and the 10 was right on the back bumper of Poteet, gave him that edge through the tri-oval.
Well, I'm back looking at what happened off of turn 2 here. That happened to Malin. Malin was going, and it looks like there was a slight little itty-bitty bump that happened between... Oh boy, I really hated Art trying to figure out camera angles with this.
Car behind him is Shane Sides. I wonder if it might be Schwallenberg and Corey Williams.
I'm thinking it's Schwallenberg, isn't it?
Yep, Schwallenberg hooks the 8 of Corey Williams down the track, and Tyler Malin was the car there. And I don't know what happened with Pedro Lucas, but his car snaps to the left, and he gets into Shane's Sides. Both of them were able to save it, though, and keep it going.
Now, I want to look at what happened with Henry Nova here.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
The car in the wall, I believe, was Rick Johnson off of 4 that started that one. And that was up around maybe the 6th position at the time.
Well, while I'm looking at Henry Nova, he's currently running 5th at this point behind Dejan. Rick gets a run on the high side here behind Lemke.
It looks like Rick Johnson tried to make a 3-wide move on Lemke. He had Teixeira with him, and then Teixeira hooked him.
Actually, I think Lemke went up to try to block that run, and when that happened,
you might be right.
Nowhere for Rick to go.
Natan Amiedo collected up as well.
Into Nova, unfortunately.
And then something happened to Emmanuel Hartnett coming to the checkers here, too. Oh, contact between Carter Friesen and Tristan Wilhoit sends Wilhoit into the wall and up into the air, and then Hartnett runs into the back of the 77. Then he gets spun by the 43 of Blake Warren, and Belden gets a piece as well.
Only a few cautions, and a really exciting finish.
Absolutely. Believe, they did not cross the start-finish line, so the way you are seeing the finishing results is where they actually finished, with Dylan Poteet taking home the checkered flag. And, you alluded to it at the beginning of the broadcast, the fact that, we end up having these drivers battling this hard at a super speedway because everyone's on really a level playing field, and it's an opportunity early on in the season to lock up a playoff spot.
And Dylan Poteet did exactly everything he had to get this monkey off his back early. Now he can just ride and try to gain top 5s, maybe another win here or there to ensure officially that he's locked in. But it's good enough to already have that one little issue off your back right out the gate.
Well, we know it's going to be a Ford versus Toyota battle for the entire season. Give the advantage, at least here at the start of the year, to the Fords, 4 of them inside of the top 4 with Poteet, Norman, Weeks, and Lemke. Felipe Teixeira, a top 5 run there in 5th. You mentioned Lyndon Wright in 6th. Roger Ray, great comeback after his warping issues in 7th. Schwallenberg will finish in 8th, so he will not sweep the super speedways this season. Cole Baker, after being really the start of the first big one, going to finish in 9th, and Corey Williams in 10th. And you see the remainder.
Will be Pedro Lucas, 12th, and the 20th Tristan Allen, who pretty much fought his way back up after being involved in a wreck like Cole Baker and Corey Williams were earlier on. So that was really good for a comeback for Tristan Allen, having to come back through all the stuff that he had. Eric Rodriguez was involved in a wreck, but he ended up finishing 13th. the 91 of Berto, he finishes 14th, and Carter Friesen still crossed the line 15th, regardless of the wreck with him and Emmanuel.
Hartnett's going to finish in 16th, our lights winner from earlier on last week. Will Goss, who was up front early on, he got collected up, I think, in a little bit of incident there in the next to last caution. He's going to finish 17th, Blake Warren 18th, Belding 19th, Will Hoyt, who flipped over twice today, is going to finish in the 20th position.
And the driver who led pretty much the first half of this race, Shane Sides. Unfortunate for him, 21st is where he comes in. Cody Lamas, outside pole sitter, tried to stay at the back, get away from everything at the end of that. Got involved in that damage. At least he'll come across 22nd. Get him some points at least. Henry Noble with that huge run, that lucky little run that he had at the end, eventually ended up going out the door based on the contact, and he will eventually finish 23rd. Natan, 24th. And the pole sitter, Tyler Mallon, such heartbreak for him. He ends up finishing 25th.
And then the rest of the drivers, Rick Johnson, who was involved in that turn 4 incident on the final lap, 26th. And the rest of these drivers DNF'd before the conclusion of this race. Johnny Gardner, David Alvarez, and Nathan Kiani. They'll all look to try and bounce back points-wise in next week's event. It's time to bring in some of our front runners and, of course, eventually our race winner. Let's kick things off and bring in...
me and I will move them in.
All right, let's bring in third place finisher, Dejan Weeks.
Driver of the number 10 Joey Murphy wannabe car, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I mean, he's not Joey Murphy, but still close enough. I'm trying to drag him. There we go.
Not like this.
All right, we've got Dejan Weeks, third place finisher here tonight at Talladega. And Dejan, first off, congratulations on a great performance here today, finishing in the top 3. We don't really know what team you're driving for, but we knew there was a Ford Alliance. Were you a part of that Ford Alliance as well?
Yeah, I race for CBM. They're basically an affiliate of SB, so basically all my teammates were up at the front the entire race.
Talk about like trying to coordinate that last restart, because you had some of the Fords up on the top side, some of the Fords on the bottom. I mean, did you guys have some kind of a strategy to be able to get all lined up?
No, it was kind of just go and wing it and just hope for the best. We didn't really have a plan going into this race. We weren't the Toyotas. We know they fell back, and we weren't gonna ride around. We were just gonna be up the front and just dominate.
We saw there in the closing stages, obviously a couple of Fords jumped to the top. You stayed on the bottom with the 17. Was there anything that you could have done from your standpoint to be in the running for the win, or were you basically committed to pushing either the 17 or the 21 to the checkers?
Coming off of 2 on the last lap, and the laps previous before that, the 93 he didn't want to work with me. If I moved up to kind of block his run and lead the top lane, he would try to go down to the bottom, and at that point I was just kind of stuck. So I just decided to stick with the inside line until a gap opened up, and then they started moving up top, and I just took the draft and pushed 17 to the win.
Well, obviously, if you can't take the W to Super Speedway, always good to get a good points day, which you did. We're going to turn the microphone over to you and let you do some shout-outs here after a great performance at Dega.
That's enough. It was a fun race. Thank you, Shane, for putting this lead together. It's great to see 30+ cars race. That was a lot of fun. And big time sim racing, motorsports. Best team ever.
There you go. That's Dejan Weeks. Bringing it home in third.
I just want to point out, you should have given some love to Joey Murphy. That number 10 belongs to him. You did him proud tonight.
Represent. Joy.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring in our runner-up finisher, Michael Norman.
You want to bring him in one at a time, not together?
Nah, let's do it one at a time.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Michael's gonna be really thrilled about it, but okay.
User was moved to your channel.
All right, we've got the runner-up finisher, Michael Norman, and Michael, 2/100ths of a second. So close to sweeping the weekend, technically, here at Talladega. You won the Battle of Ram Ranch last week. Almost get it done here in the first race of the season. But, I mean, was there anything you could have done differently to be able to edge out the 17 through the tri-oval?
Not really. I mean, I took it to the outside on the back stretch. I figured maybe if I would have waited to the front stretch, but Lemke had come over and said if I wanted to make a move. So I did, and I mean, I did it to try to guarantee at least me or Poteet to go to victory lane. But I could have swore he was going to clear me coming off 4, but unfortunately he didn't.
I want to
So
go back to the round of pit stops, the first round of pit stops where we had our first caution, because I was trying to figure out what happened to you. You spun out by yourself. Was that you trying to fake coming to pit road and then you changed your mind, or
no,
was there
that was
something going on
just
with the brake bias?
yeah, it was brakes. I got on the brakes and I tried to tap them to get them to work, and it just kind of got a little loose, and I overcorrected.
Well, we also saw you at one point hit the apron, and then it was suggested by South a little later on in the race that, for all we know, that the setup could be really loose because every time we saw someone tap the brake or slow down, that back end kept kicking up. So was the setup pretty loose?
No, actually, it was at least for the inside line, it was tight. After a while, your car would push up a little bit, but which is kind of what happened to start that big one. I pushed up and then I kind of blocked the 19 trying to get back in line, but at least that's what started the stack up for that wreck. But it was fun. It was a real fun race, honestly, and the setup was pretty good. And yeah, there was a lot of checkup and a lot of people were getting frustrated with it, but yeah, the setup was pretty good, pretty fun, real fun actually. But I was committed to my teammates tonight.
I
Yeah,
really need to know one thing after that performance. Last week, you pretty much took it home. And even though you got second, are we planning to see a raced version diecast of a runner-up number 21 tonight?
No, unfortunately, that's only if I win.
maybe Daytona. Who
Yeah,
knows?
maybe Daytona or anywhere else, really. You never know.
Well, obviously, a great points night for you nonetheless. That's going to give you some good momentum going into the remainder of the season as well. I believe you're looking to make what I think is your second playoff berth in IMRC Cup. So, obviously, this is a good start to that. We're going to turn the microphone over to you and let's do some shout outs here after your runner up finish.
Oh, I'd like to thank Shane for putting on IMRC Season 8. I'd like to thank you, Seth, for painting my schemes. Pretty good. I got this Hot Wheels Hot Rod into second place, almost with a win. Got it last week, unfortunately, fell short this week. We'll get them next week, hopefully, at Atlanta. And, well, shout out to all my teammates. Ford beat out most of everybody today, and even the people who aren't my teammates. But, heck, it was a fun race, and I'm glad to have it. Thank you guys for commentating, too, guys and gals.
I'm unfriending you.
You're unfriending me.
I am unfriending you. You did not at all give any credit to the person who made FRN, aka Mr. Matthew Rodriguez. How dare
Oh,
you?
shame.
Thanks, Matt Rod, for having the company that broadcasted this race tonight.
Nope, you already messed up.
Yep, too late.
Oh, well, too late.
Too late to suck up now.
Oh, well.
All right, so that's Michael Norman finishing second. We're gonna bring in his teammate now. Well, I guess we could. I guess we call it a half teammate because Michael Norman runs for the satellite team for Shallow Bay. Dylan Pote runs for Shallow Bay. But let's get a word now with our race winner.
User was moved to your channel.
Well, Dylan Poteet, my goodness, you finish out last season with a championship. You start off this season with a win at Talladega. I mean, what was the strategy there on that final restart, and what was going through your mind when you all of a sudden see, oh no, there's a Ford going to my outside in the back straightaway?
I had chatted with Michael before we went green there. I committed to staying with him if he would work with me, and he was agreeing on that. Yeah, I mean, I was expecting a lot to happen on the last lap. I figured that first lap we were just kind of getting up to speed, and then once we hit the white flag, that's when everything was going to start heating up. I was going to block him, and then I thought he was going to cross over, so I kind of halfway did it, and then he got committed with, I think it was Andrew, and they got up there, and I kind of had no choice. I had to go back down. I saw Dejon have a good run with Henry down on the bottom, so I stuck down there, and at that point, it just came down to who got a better push back to the line, and I got a give a shout out to Dejan definitely for helping me there because I don't think I would have won if he hadn't gave me that bump out of turn 4, and he kind of pushed me back ahead just enough to stay in front of Michael. I didn't expect that to go that way. I'm not one to say I'm going to go win a plate race anytime because I usually don't have the world's best luck. So winning this race is actually bittersweet, definitely. It's been a while. I'm pretty sure the last time I went to Talladega was an old IBOS race. I'm pretty sure for one of your leagues. So just really happy to keep the trend going. And I'm starting to think this Menards car is kind of lucky because that's 2 in a row technically. So really happy with how that worked out. I think everybody with Team SB and the satellite team, I always forget the name and I'm sorry, but we all worked really good together and it was fun. Like I said, it was a really fun race. It was a lot cleaner than I think everybody expected and everybody's been giving good positive vibes about it. So all in all, good race.
You just dated yourself and me because if you're referring to the Talladega race in IBS that I think you're referring to, that was back in the very first season of the series. So,
Yeah,
good
I don't know
lord.
if the last time I won there. No, I was in the Baja car. I remember that. That's all I know.
That
So
would have been
does this
season
mean
1.
Fords are better than Chevys now?
Don't know.
Oh.
Speaking of Ford, I mean, we got a little bit of insight with a couple of Toyota drivers before the race, and a lot of them were saying they were going to drop to the back early on. Did the Fords have any kind of a plan of, where they were going to try and do, if they were going to kind of try to ride or if they were going to charge to the front?
We kind of found ourselves up at the front. I think most of our intentions were just to stay up front. A lot of us were already up there to begin with, and it just kind of worked out. We get about 4 or 5 of us together, and then we just kind of stayed up there. I had no intention to drop back. Once I qualified up there, and I just wanted to stay up there this time, just see what we do. We had a lot of them up there. I know Will and Shane, Michael. We had a few others up there. Natan, like everybody would qualified up front, and it just kind of worked out that way. So. I think for the most part, we just wanted to stay up front. It seemed like it worked out very well for the most part. We had numbers on a lot of the other teams and stuff. When that happened, we could kind of hold off runs and we can kind of stay together and not have any problems. Nobody really had an issue with what we were doing, so it made life a lot easier for all of us when we're all agreeing on something, and it worked out very well. Most of us, I think, got a pretty good run. We had a couple get caught up in that big wreck, but like all in all, I think everybody on the team did really good today.
Jess brought up at the beginning of the broadcast, a driver winning this race, they're locked into the playoffs. They can kind of, relax a little bit heading into the rest of the regular season, maybe do a little bit something outside the box. So, I mean, does that change your mentality heading on to the rest of the regular season, knowing you have this win now?
I mean, it can, but I mean, the goal's still always the same. If you want to go out there and try to win, do what you can, the best you can. So, I don't think I've ever won the first race of a season in a system where you're locked in after that. So this is, I think, a first for me. I'm not really sure how to feel about it. It may kick in maybe when we get to next week's race, knowing that I've kind of locked myself in, and now I can kind of just go for more bonus points and just try to win some more races and just have some good runs. So it does definitely knock out a little bit of the stress a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I don't think it's going to change too much in my mindset, though. I think it's still the same deal over and over.
Well, it's gonna have to be because if you're going by the mentality of NR offline, you win the first race, you're not making anything in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Period.
I've seen that happen one too many times.
Well, obviously, a lot of weight off your shoulders with this win here at the beginning of the season at Talladega. Big time win for you there in a photo finish. 2/100ths of a second is what it came down to between you and Michael. But obviously a great way to start the season, and we're going to turn the microphone over to you and let you do some shout-outs here.
I just want to thank Team SB again for bringing me back. Eric for letting me join the team a couple seasons ago, and just want to keep the trend going. Shane, Will, Michael, Natan, everybody did a great job today. Really fun. So good day for Team SB and Life in Motorsports. I hope I said that right. Probably didn't, but I'll get it figured out. Everybody, thanks for watching this. Thank you guys for doing the broadcast today. It's been great. I was on this other end of it Saturday, and it was fun. But now being on this end, it's kind of surreal how that kind of works out in a 2-day span. So just thanks again for doing the broadcast today. Can't wait for you guys to be back for the next one. And just thanks to everybody that raced today. Like, it was a great race. It's one of the better Talladega races I've ran in a very long time. And I was glad to be a part of it. And I was really fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time and hang on to have a great finish with Michael there. So thanks again, guys.
Absolutely no problem. It was a great race from our end as well. That's Dylan Poteet, champion last year, on the road, and maybe being champion again this year with the win at Talladega. So final thoughts, and I want to know, Jess, with what we saw, I mean, it looked like a really good Talladega race. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you have loved to have been driving in this thing?
Let's see. On a scale of 1 to 10, like 10, I really wanted to race it. 1, I'm happy I didn't race it.
Yes.
I'm probably going to say a 7, maybe
Yeah,
a
I'd
6.
be about a 7 as well. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of nervous seeing some of the racing mid-pack, but as far as, the inside-outside line working, drivers getting runs, and really just the overall smartness of how people raced each other, it really looked like they did a very good job out
Do we
there.
have time for one more person? Just a random person?
Of course we do.
Okay, well, let's annoy this guy here.
She has a friend. Oh,
Whoa. In the middle of a private conversation, we've got Corey Williams here.
Hello.
And you bring it home after getting involved in a warp wreck in I guess we'll call it the first big one. You still get a top 10 run. Obviously, you always bring an interesting perspective of the races to the table. What was it like in the cockpit for this one?
I loved it. I love this package we have for IMRC. It's a little bit different than other leagues. We got major suck up, and you can go anywhere with this package. You can go top, middle, bottom. So I loved it. And right there at the end, I think we started 16th, 17th. Me and Dylan got hooked up, Schwallenberg, and I think he got 8th, I got 10th. And I mean, we flew through the field, and that's why I like this package. You can do it wherever. And
There was a little contact off of turn 2 with you and Schwallenberg. I'm not sure who bumped who or something wasn't right, and someone got the worst end of it. I think it was Nova, wasn't it?
I think it was Malin.
Was it Mal?
Yeah.
I pulled up in front of him because the car in front of me completely just checked up. So when I got up in front of him, it made him either have to hit me or, him have to lift. And so when he hit me, I just kind of got a little loose and got into Malin. But it saved my car, and I went back straight and got back behind him. So it kind of worked out for us.
We have to know. We have to know because we were contemplating this earlier on. When you hit the brakes, is it when you hit the brakes you grip flip, or is it when someone hits you by hitting the brakes grip flip?
It's when you hit the brake, pretty much. Like if your car's sideways and you're on the brake, it'll kind of roll a little bit. But if you get hit in the side, you're pretty much going over it.
We saw a lot of drivers when they kind of slammed on the brakes. It was like it was ice. They would just spin out. So we were wondering if that was something to do with maybe the brake bias of the setup, perhaps, or if it was the grip of the track.
Yeah, I don't know. That track's kind of weird because if there's a big wreck in front of you, I've just never. That's just a part of me. I've always lifted first and then got on the brake, but I know some people just slam on them, and when you slam on them in that track, it kind of just loops the whole car around. And so when I got killed by the 44, I don't know if he's watching or not, but then the big one that shot me into Cody, the warp wreck. So I guess he just slammed on him and got it sideways and just killed me and into Cody. But it didn't hurt my car as bad as it killed Cody, and I kind of feel bad because his car was killed after that.
So I have to ask, what's your opinion on this whole Toyota versus Ford war that they're doing apparently?
Oh, I mean, I've been a part of these things before. You get a group, you get up on the top, and you just ride, and then the other group starts not liking it, so you get you a big bunch of Fords, or you get you a big bunch of
Are you not going to take sides here, Corey?
He's got no
No.
choice. He's a blue oval.
I'm a blue oval, but hey, I had a couple of them Toyotas get behind me today. Tyler Mallon got behind me and pushed me a little bit, and Cole Baker a little bit. So I mean, I'm not on either side right now. I'm a free agent, but I've been a part of these civil wars before. So
Hashtag Chevy Cameo's coming back.
Oh my goodness. Well, obviously, a great comeback finish for you after getting involved in that big wreck. We're going to turn the microphone over. Let's do some shout-outs here, Corey.
I'd like to thank the boys at Team SB, Eric, and all those guys. I'd like to thank all the teammates that was in there tonight. Goss, Michael Norman, Limkey, Nate, Natan, and I also like to thank Dylan Schwallenberg for, hooking us up at the end, and my pit crew. I have no sponsors on this car. It's a sponsorless race car, so if anybody wants to jump on board this blue and yellow number 8, let us know at teamsb.com/Eric Rodriguez on Facebook, and we'll hook your logos up on the car.
I just typed that
Big Dog
in.
Inc.
It's a domain that's up for sale.
Oh. Eric didn't pay the bill.
Apparently not. That's Corey Williams. He brings it home with a top 10 run here tonight. See what happens here in the remainder of the season.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm still racing. I'm not retired.
That's right.
Oh, you're actually out of retirement now. Okay.
He'll retire between now and the
we
next
have
race.
we have to keep this up, Seth, because like I said, you moved in the top 3 finishers and all. And I wanted to bring Corey in because it's Corey. Corey always has to have 2 cents in everything, so we had to bring him in anyway. So I guess we have our 2-cent person for the rest of the broadcast tenure here.
There you go.
Nice. I'll take it.
Okay, Corey, moving you back up.
Okay.
User was moved out of your channel.
All right, so that is going to conclude our broadcast here this evening for IMRC Cup. I mean, Jess, your first time here in the Flatout Racing Network Studios broadcast booth. Your first impressions?
I have a lot to learn still.
I thought you did great. I thought you did a really good job. There's been some guys that I've had come in here for the first time, and they've been scared to death too. But believe me, it actually gets easier as it goes on. One thing I'm going to really enjoy watching, because we do have IMRC Cup next week as well. They're going to be running at Atlanta. We had this Ford versus Toyota battle at a super speedway. There you have a chance to really be able to help your manufacturer. But look at some of the tracks we're going to later on this season. We got Atlanta next week. We got Kentucky. We got a dirt road course at Laguna Seca. That is going to be crazy.
Oh, are you kidding?
Dead serious. I've driven it. I have driven it in Super Stadium trucks when IMRC did Dirt Warriors. It is fun, but I can't wait to see what these Cup cars are going to look like on it.
I've been at Laguna Seca a few times, but never on NR. It was Gran Turismo, and one time it was iRacing, and I'm not going to be much help.
I'm not going to tell Shane how to run his league, but I hope and pray for those drivers' sake there's going to be no damage.
All I'm going to say is I'm happy that if we are going to do Laguna Seca for broadcast, that I am actually not driving. So that one will be a 1 on my end.
But that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight. Of course, as mentioned, we will be back next week for Atlanta, so be sure to tune in for that. We got a lot of stuff that's coming up this week as well on Flatout Racing Network. We got some modifieds that are running tomorrow night with Elite. Wednesday night, I believe the Cup Series is kicking off their season at Daytona. Thursday night, Fuel, of course, is bringing back their Indy cars as well. So a lot of stuff on tap this week, a full week of racing on Flatout Racing Network. But again, Jess, thanks for joining me. Hope everybody that tuned in to tonight's broadcast enjoyed it. And again, you guys have been watching yet another